In the year 2347, Earth was no longer the center of humanity's world. The United Earth Federation, or UEF, had spread its reach across hundreds of star systems, claiming planets and resources as its own. But for Ethan Cole, none of that mattered. He lived on Erinder 9, a small farming colony far from the bustling cities and political games of the UEF. For years, Ethan had tried to leave his past behind. Once a soldier in the UEF army, he had seen enough battles and lost too many friends. Now he spent his days tending to crops under two suns, finding peace in the quiet rhythm of farm life. Ethan's wife, Claire, was different. She worked as a scientist for the UEF, studying soil samples and plant genetics to improve crop yields on distant colonies. Though she shared Ethan's love for their simple life, her mind often wandered to bigger questions. She believed that humanity's rapid expansion into the galaxy came at a cost. Resources were stretched thin, and tensions with alien species were growing. But whenever she brought up these concerns, Ethan would just shake his head. "That's their problem, not ours," he'd say. "We're just trying to live." One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over their fields, Claire returned home with an unusual look on her face. She carried a data pad in her hand, its screen glowing faintly in the dim light. "Ethan," she said, sitting down at the kitchen table, "you need to see this." Ethan sighed, setting aside his tools. "What is it now?" he asked, though deep down he could tell it was serious. Claire explained that a team of researchers had discovered something strange near the edge of human-controlled space. It was an object, unlike anything they'd ever seen, buried deep beneath the surface of a barren moon. The artifact emitted signals that defied explanation, and when probes approached it, the signals changed unpredictably. Some scientists thought it might be a remnant of an ancient alien civilization, while others speculated it could be a weapon. The UEF, however, dismissed it as irrelevant. They ordered the research team to stop wasting time and focus on more practical matters. Ethan frowned. "So, why are you showing me this? If the UEF doesn't care, why should we?" "Because I think they're wrong," Claire replied firmly. "This thing, it's important. I don't know how or why, but it feels significant, like it's trying to tell us something." Ethan didn't respond right away. He trusted Claire's instincts, but he also knew better than to get involved in UEF affairs. Their lives were peaceful here, away from the chaos of politics and interstellar conflicts. Still, he couldn't ignore the unease in Claire's voice. Something about the artifact worried her, and if it worried her, it worried him too. Days turned into weeks, and the artifact faded from their conversations. Life on Erinder 9 continued as usual, until the night the sky lit up with unfamiliar ships. Dozens of sleek, angular vessels descended silently, their hulls shimmering like liquid metal. Ethan stood outside, staring upward, his heart pounding. These weren't UEF ships. They belonged to someone, or something else. The next morning, news spread quickly through the colony. The visitors called themselves the Veilith, and they claimed to come in peace. Their leader, Zinara, addressed the colonists, explaining that they sought access to the artifact. According to Zinara, the object held the key to preventing a disaster, one that threatened not only humanity but every living being in the galaxy. Ethan watched as Claire listened intently, her expression unreadable. He knew then that their quiet life was over. Whatever the artifact was, it had already started changing everything. And there was no turning back. The arrival of the Veilith changed everything on Erinder 9. Their ships loomed in the sky like silent sentinels, casting long shadows over the fields and homes below. Zinara, their leader, was unlike any being Ethan had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if made of starlight, and her voice carried a calm authority that demanded attention. She spoke to the colonists through a translator device, explaining that the artifact buried beneath the barren moon was part of an ancient system meant to protect the galaxy. Without it, she warned, all life would be at risk. Claire listened intently, her mind racing with questions. She wanted to believe Zanara, but years of working for the UEF had taught her to be cautious. Governments rarely acted out of pure altruism, and the same could apply to aliens. Still, something about Zanara's words resonated deeply with her. The artifact's strange signals, its unpredictable behavior, it all pointed to something far greater than anyone had imagined. Ethan, on the other hand, felt uneasy. He didn't trust outsiders, especially ones who arrived uninvited. What do they really want? He asked Claire later that evening as they sat together outside their home. The air was cool, and the twin suns had set hours ago, leaving only the glow of the alien ships in the sky. They say they need the artifact to stop some kind of cosmic disaster, Claire replied, staring at the horizon. But I don't think they're lying, Ethan. What if they're telling the truth? What if this really is as serious as they claim? And what if it's not? Ethan countered. We don't know anything about them. For all we know, this could be a trick to get us to hand over something valuable. Claire hesitated. She knew Ethan had a point, but she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. If the artifact truly held the key to saving the galaxy, ignoring it wasn't an option. I think we need to find out more, she said finally. If the UEF won't listen, maybe we can figure it out ourselves. Meanwhile, tensions between the Vailith and the UEF escalated quickly. News of the artifact reached Earth within days, and the UEF responded with suspicion. They sent representatives to Irindor-9, demanding that the Vailith leave immediately. When Zanara refused, citing the urgency of their mission, the UEF accused them of aggression. Negotiations broke down almost instantly, with both sides retreating to prepare for conflict. Ethan watched nervously as soldiers began arriving on the colony. Tanks rolled across the dusty plains, and armed guards patrolled the streets. The once peaceful community now felt like a battlefield waiting to happen. Claire, too, grew anxious. She tried to mediate between the two groups, offering her expertise as a scientist to help decode the artifact's signals. But the UEF dismissed her efforts, insisting that humanity should handle the situation alone. One night, unable to sleep, Claire decided to take matters into her own hands. She slipped away from their home and headed toward the research facility where the artifact was being studied. Ethan followed her, his footsteps soft against the dry ground. "What are you doing?" he whispered when he caught up to her. "I'm going to see it," Claire said firmly. "If no one else will listen, maybe I can make sense of it." Reluctantly, Ethan agreed to go with her. Together, they entered the facility, avoiding the guards stationed outside. Inside, the artifact sat in a sealed chamber, glowing faintly under harsh lights. It was roughly spherical, with intricate patterns etched into its surface that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. As Claire approached, she felt a strange pull, as though the object were alive and aware of her presence. Suddenly, the room filled with a low hum. The patterns on the artifact began to pulse with light, and Claire gasped. Images flashed in her mind, stars collapsing, planets crumbling, entire civilizations vanishing in an instant. She stumbled back, clutching her head, as Ethan rushed to her side. "What happened?" he asked, his voice trembling. "It showed me." Claire struggled to speak, her breath coming in short bursts. "It showed me what's coming. If we don't stop it, everything will be destroyed." For the first time, Ethan saw the fear in her eyes, and he believed her. Whatever the artifact was, it wasn't just a piece of alien technology. It was a warning, and humanity had swiveled its back to it for far too long. The warning Claire received from the artifact haunted her. She couldn't forget the images of destruction. Stars collapsing, planets crumbling, and entire civilizations vanishing. It wasn't just a vision. It felt like a prediction, a glimpse into a future that could come true if nothing was done. But convincing others to take it seriously proved nearly impossible. The UEF dismissed her claims as baseless speculation. "We've seen no evidence of this so-called catastrophe," one official told her during a tense meeting. "Until you can provide concrete proof, We'll proceed with our plans." Their plan, as it turned out, was to seize control of the artifact by force. They didn't trust the Vaylith and refused to share any information or resources with them. Instead, they prepared for an attack, determined to remove the aliens from Irindor 9 and claim the artifact for themselves. Ethan watched helplessly as tensions boiled over. Soldiers patrolled the colony constantly, their weapons ready. The once quiet fields were now filled with tanks and supply crates. Even the farmers had been asked, or rather, ordered, to leave their lands and stay indoors. Ethan hated feeling powerless, but he knew there was little he could do against the UEF's overwhelming might. Still, he couldn't ignore what Claire had seen. If she was right, humanity's stubbornness could doom them all. One evening, as Ethan sat on the porch of their home, Claire approached him with a worried look. "They're going to attack tomorrow," she said quietly. "I overheard some officers talking. They think they can drive the Vaylith away without triggering the artifact." Ethan frowned. "And what happens if they're wrong? What if messing with it makes things worse?" "I don't know," Claire admitted. "But I can't just sit here and do nothing. We have to warn Cenera." It was a risky move, but Ethan agreed. Under cover of darkness, they made their way to the Vaylith encampment outside the colony. Cenera greeted them cautiously, her glowing form standing out against the night sky. When Claire explained the UEF's intentions, Cenera's expression darkened. "They do not understand the stakes," she said gravely. "If they interfere with the artifact, they may destabilize it further." "What can we do?" Ethan asked, surprising even himself with his willingness to get involved. "We must protect the artifact at all costs," Cenera replied. "It is not only humanity's fate tied to it, but the fate of every living being in the galaxy." By morning, the situation had reached a breaking point. The UEF launched its assault, sending ships and ground troops toward the Vaylith camp. Chaos erupted as energy blasts lit up the sky. The Vaylith fought back fiercely, their advanced technology giving them an edge. Despite their skill, however, the battle quickly turned disastrous for both sides. Ethan and Claire found themselves caught in the crossfire. As explosions rocked the ground around them, they scrambled for cover behind a rocky ridge. Nearby, colonists screamed and ran for safety while smoke billowed into the air. Ethan shielded Claire with his body, his heart pounding. He had promised to keep her safe, but how could he when the world seemed to be falling apart? Amidst the chaos, something unexpected happened. The artifact began to react. A deep hum echoed across the battlefield, growing louder with each passing second. The ground trembled, and a blinding light erupted from the facility where the artifact was kept. Both the UEF forces and the Vaylith froze, staring in awe as waves of energy pulsed outward, distorting the very air around them. When the light faded, an eerie silence fell over the land. The artifact had stopped glowing, its surface now cold and lifeless. For a moment, everyone stood still, unsure of what had just occurred. Then, slowly, the realization dawned. Whatever the artifact had been doing, it was now silent. And no one knew whether that was good or bad. Ethan looked at Claire, fear etched on his face. "Did we just make things worse?" he asked. She shook her head, though uncertainty clouded her eyes. "I don't know, but I think we're about to find out." The silence after the artifact's outburst was deafening. Both the UEF forces and the Vaylith stood frozen, their weapons lowered as they stared at the facility where the object had been kept. The air felt heavy, charged with an energy that made Ethan's skin tingle. He glanced at Claire, who looked pale but resolute. Whatever had just happened, it wasn't over. Cenera stepped forward cautiously, her glowing form moving like a beacon in the dim light. She approached the artifact's chamber, gesturing for others to stay back. Ethan wanted to argue, to tell her it was too dangerous, but he knew she was the only one who might understand what was going on. The UEF soldiers hesitated, unsure whether to intervene or retreat entirely. For now, everyone seemed willing to wait. Inside the chamber, Cenera examined the artifact closely. Its surface was no longer pulsing with light, but faint cracks had appeared, spreading like spider webs across its smooth exterior. She touched it gently, and a soft hum vibrated through the room. Images began to flicker in her mind, visions of ancient beings working together to create something powerful, something meant to hold the galaxy together. But there were also glimpses of destruction, of civilizations crumbling under the weight of their own greed and ignorance. When Zenara returned, her expression was grim. "The artifact is damaged," she said, addressing both the humans and her own people. It was part of a network designed to stabilize the fabric of reality itself. Humanity's actions have disrupted this balance, accelerating the decay. Claire listened intently, piecing together what Zenara was saying. "So, this isn't just about us?" she asked hesitantly. "It's about everything, the entire galaxy." "Yes," Zenara replied. "And if we cannot repair the network, nothing will remain." Ethan frowned, struggling to process the enormity of what he was hearing. "But how do we fix it? Can we even do that?" "There may still be hope," Zenara said. "Other artifacts exist, scattered across the galaxy. If we can locate them and restore their connections, we might yet prevent total collapse." The idea of searching the galaxy for ancient objects sounded impossible, but Claire didn't hesitate. "We'll help," she said firmly. "If anyone can figure out how these things work, it's us." Ethan shot her a worried glance. "Are you sure about this? We're talking about risking our lives. And maybe more." "I'm sure," Claire replied. "If we don't try, what's the alternative? Sitting around while everything falls apart." Reluctantly, Ethan nodded. He trusted Claire's judgment, even if it scared him. Together, they joined Zenara and a small team of Vailith scientists to begin planning their next steps. The UEF, meanwhile, withdrew their forces, unwilling to admit fault, but equally reluctant to continue fighting against such overwhelming odds. Over the following days, Claire threw herself into studying the artifact. With Zenara's guidance, she learned to interpret some of its patterns and signals. Each discovery brought new challenges, but also glimmers of hope. The artifact wasn't just a relic. It was a map, pointing toward other pieces of the network. One by one, coordinates emerge, revealing locations deep in uncharted space. As preparations continued, Ethan found himself growing uneasy. He understood the importance of their mission, but he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out faster than anyone realized. Strange phenomena began occurring across Erinder 9. Unusual weather patterns, crops failing overnight, and animals behaving erratically. It was as though the planet itself was reacting to the destabilization Zenara had warned about. One night, as Ethan sat outside their home staring at the stars, Claire joined him. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" she asked softly. He hesitated before answering. "I don't know, but I do know one thing. If we don't try, we'll never forgive ourselves." Claire smiled faintly, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Then let's make sure we succeed." Though neither of them could see the future, they both knew one thing for certain. The galaxy's fate rested in their hands, and failure wasn't an option. The journey to find the first artifact on the list was long and perilous. Ethan, Claire, and a small team of Vailith boarded one of their sleek ships, leaving Erinder 9 behind. The coordinates led them to a remote star system, where a dying planet orbited a flickering red sun. The air there was thin and toxic, forcing everyone to wear protective suits as they explored the barren landscape. The artifact was hidden deep underground, buried beneath layers of rock and debris. It took hours of careful excavation to uncover it, but when they finally did, Ethan felt a strange sense of awe. Like the one on Erinder 9, this object pulsed faintly with light, its surface covered in intricate patterns that shifted like liquid. Claire immediately set to work analyzing it, her hands trembling with excitement and fear. "It's similar," she said, "but different enough that we'll need time to figure it out." Time, however, was something they didn't have. Strange tremors began shaking the ground soon after they arrived. sending clouds of dust spiraling into the sky. Zenara warned them that the planet was unstable, a consequence of the same cosmic decay threatening the entire galaxy. They had to hurry. As Claire worked, Ethan kept watch outside. He scanned the horizon, his eyes searching for any signs of danger. The desolate scenery made him feel small and insignificant, a tiny speck in a vast, crumbling universe. For the first time, he truly understood the weight of what they were trying to do. If they failed, everything, every star, every planet, every living thing would be lost. Back inside, Claire managed to activate the artifact using data from the first one. A surge of energy shot through the chamber, connecting the two objects across unimaginable distances. The patterns on the artifact's surface stabilized, glowing steadily now instead of flickering. Claire let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "It worked," she whispered. "We've restored part of the network." But their victory was short-lived. As they prepared to leave the planet, alarms blared throughout the ship. An unknown vessel had entered the system, heading straight for them. Ethan rushed to the cockpit, his heart pounding. On the view screen, he could see the outline of a massive UEF warship, its weapons trained on their position. "They followed us," Claire said, her voice tight with anger and disbelief. "They must have tracked our movements." Zenara remained calm, though her expression darkened. "We cannot fight them here," she said. "If they destroy this artifact, the damage will spread faster than before." Ethan clenched his fists. "So what do we do?" "Run." "For now," Zenara replied. "But we must also make them understand the stakes. This is not just about power or control. It's about survival." The Vylith ship launched into space, narrowly avoiding the UEF's attacks. Laser blasts streaked past them, lighting up the darkness as they raced toward the edge of the system. Ethan gripped the back of the pilot's seat, his knuckles white. "They're not going to stop," he muttered. "Not until they get what they want." Claire turned to him, her face pale but determined. "Then we'll have to show them why they can't afford to keep chasing us." When they reached safety, Claire devised a plan. Using the data they'd gathered from both artifacts, she created a simulation showing the effects of the galactic decay. Stars collapsing, planets breaking apart. It was all there, undeniable proof of what would happen if the network wasn't repaired. She transmitted the simulation directly to the UEF warship, hoping someone aboard would listen. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the warship powered down its weapons and retreated. Ethan exhaled in relief, though he knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The UEF might stand down for now, but they wouldn't give up completely. As the team regrouped, Ethan looked at Claire, pride swelling in his chest. She had risked everything to protect not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. And while the road ahead was still uncertain, he knew one thing for sure: they weren't backing down. Not now. Not ever. The team's small victories came at a cost. Each artifact they restored brought them closer to stabilizing the galaxy, but the strain of their mission was taking its toll. Claire spent countless hours analyzing data, her eyes red from lack of sleep. Ethan tried to convince her to rest, but she refused. "We don't have time," she would say, her voice tinged with desperation. "Every second counts." Their journey led them to more dangerous places. Planets with crushing gravity, asteroid fields teeming with debris, and regions of space warped by strange anomalies. At every stop, they faced new challenges: hostile environments, malfunctioning equipment, and even remnants of ancient traps left behind by the creators of the artifacts. But through it all, they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. Back on Erinder 9, life had changed dramatically. The once thriving colony was now a shadow of its former self. Strange phenomena continued to plague the planet. Crops failed, rivers dried up, and the skies turned an eerie shade of orange. Many colonists fled, seeking refuge on other worlds, while those who stayed struggled to survive. Ethan thought about his home often, wondering if it would still be there when this was over. As the team worked tirelessly, alliances began to form among the different species they encountered. The Valith weren't the only ones aware of the artifact's importance. Other alien races, some friendly and others wary, joined the effort. Together, they shared knowledge and resources, pooling their strengths to locate and restore the artifacts. For the first time in centuries, humanity found itself working alongside beings they had once feared or ignored. Ethan marveled at the change. He had always believed humans were meant to stand alone, to carve out their place in the galaxy without help from anyone else. But seeing so many species come together made him realize how wrong he had been. Survival wasn't about dominance, it was about cooperation. One day, as they approached the location of another artifact, Claire received unexpected news. Her son, Liam, had been taken in by a group of scientists studying the effects of the galactic decay. They believed he could help, thanks to his sharp mind and natural curiosity. Claire felt torn. She missed Liam desperately, but she knew he was safer away from the dangers of their mission. Still, hearing his voice over a comms link brought tears to her eyes. "Mom," he said, "I'm helping, just like you taught me." Claire smiled despite herself. "You're amazing, Liam. I'm so proud of you." With each artifact they restored, the network grew stronger. The tremors across the galaxy began to subside, and stars that had dimmed started to shine again. Hope spread like wildfire, igniting a sense of unity among the scattered civilizations. Even the UEF, though reluctant at first, eventually acknowledged the necessity of collaboration. Their leaders sent representatives to assist in the restoration efforts, marking a rare moment of humility for the organization. But not everyone was pleased. A faction within the UEF, embittered by the loss of control, plotted to sabotage the mission. They believed humanity should dominate the galaxy, not share it. When Ethan learned of their plans, he confronted Claire, his face grim. "We can't trust them," he said. "If they interfere, everything we've worked for could collapse." Claire nodded, her jaw set firmly. "Then we'll have to make sure they don't succeed." In the end, it was a race against time. The final artifact lay hidden in a treacherous region of space known as the Void, a place where gravity twisted unnaturally and navigation systems failed. As the team ventured into the darkness, they knew this was their last chance. If they succeeded, the galaxy might be saved. If they failed, there would be no second chances. Ethan glanced at Claire as they entered the Void, her face illuminated by the faint glow of the ship's controls. She looked exhausted but determined. Whatever happened next, he vowed to stand by her side. They had faced impossible odds before, and somehow they had always found a way to keep going. This time would be no different. The Void was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. The ship's lights barely pierced the darkness, and the stars outside seemed to twist and blur as if caught in a storm. Navigation systems failed almost immediately, leaving Zanera to rely on her instincts and advanced technology to guide them forward. Everyone aboard felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. This was it, the final artifact, the last hope for the galaxy. When they finally located the object, it was buried deep within a jagged asteroid floating silently in the void. Unlike the others, this artifact was enormous, its surface covered in glowing patterns that shifted constantly, like waves rippling across water. Claire approached it cautiously, her heart pounding. She could feel its energy pulsing through the air, stronger than any of the previous artifacts. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the core." Restoring the artifact wasn't easy. Its complexity surpassed anything they'd encountered before, requiring precise calculations and careful adjustments. Claire worked tirelessly, her hands steady despite the exhaustion etched into her face. Ethan stayed close, ready to assist whenever she needed him. Zanera coordinated with the Valith crew, ensuring the ship maintained position amidst the chaotic gravitational forces surrounding the asteroid. As Claire activated the final sequence, the artifact began to hum louder, its glow intensifying until it filled the entire chamber. A surge of energy shot outward, connecting with the other restored artifacts across the galaxy. For a moment, everything went still. Then, slowly, the patterns on the artifacts stabilized, glowing softly and steadily. Claire let out a shaky breath, tears streaming down her face. "It's done," she said. "We did it." But their relief was short-lived. The UEF faction intent on sabotage arrived just as the artifact stabilized, their ships emerging from the shadows of the void. They demanded control of the artifact, threatening to destroy it if their orders weren't followed. Ethan clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. After everything they had sacrificed, these people were willing to risk the galaxy's survival for power. Zenara stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "You cannot win here," she told them. "Destroying this artifact will undo everything we have accomplished. Do you truly wish to be responsible for the end of all life?" The UEF commander hesitated, doubt flickering across his face. Before he could respond, Liam's voice came over the comms link. Using data collected by the scientists, he broadcasted a message directly to the UEF fleet, showing the immediate effects of the restored network. Stars shining brighter, planets stabilizing, and anomalies fading. "Look what we've achieved," Liam said, his young voice filled with conviction. "This isn't about control anymore. It's about survival. For everyone." The transmission struck a chord. One by one, the UEF ships powered down their weapons and retreated. The rogue faction's leader lowered his head, defeated. "Perhaps we were wrong," he admitted quietly. With the crisis averted, the team returned to Irindernine, where signs of recovery were already visible. Rivers flowed again, crops began to grow, and the skies returned to their natural hue. Ethan stood beside Claire, watching as Liam ran toward them, his laughter echoing across the fields. "You did it, Mom," he said, hugging her tightly. "You saved us all." Claire smiled, though her eyes glistened with tears. "We did it together," she corrected. "Every single person who helped, human or alien. They'd made this possible." In the years that followed, humanity learned humility. The galactic network remained under shared stewardship, a symbol of unity among species. Ethan often thought about how far they had come, from fear and mistrust to cooperation and hope. As he looked up at the stars with Claire by his side, he knew one thing for certain: the galaxy's fate was no longer locked in destruction. It was open to endless possibilities.